vuol dire che
Hey there, everyone. How's it going tonight or today, depending on if you're listening this tomorrow? At any rate, welcome to the show. Scott's here, Brandon's here, Creative Redundancy. How you guys doing? Tonight, I got a few different things, and there's quite a bit tonight, so I hope I get to it all. I've got my solar setup that I'm doing, a couple different things that I'm doing I want to talk about and go over my plans for that. But the majority of this show is going to be about, like the title says, controlling what you can control. I've got some prepping tips that I asked the private group a while back, and I'm just now getting to those. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I've got one of Scott's comments in there, or tips to the new prepper in there as well. So we're going to talk about that. Alpha Tango, again, in the group, made a great comment about how with all the different things going on in the world, it can be pretty overwhelming, and if you let yourself get consumed by that, you're not doing yourself any favors. So I want to go through that as well. Hey, Gun Pilot's here. What's going on? But at any rate, what I want to do is I'm going to start off with my solar setup, what I plan on doing. Renergy sent me a 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, as well as a 1,000 watt inverter, which is skirting the limits for preparedness purposes, but it's pretty cool, and I want to show you what my plans are for that in the next few weeks. I want to build something really cool, but before we get into that, I also have this little 20 amp hour battery, and this is not a recommendation for this Matey battery. This is a pretty cheap, just not, it's not a bad battery. I haven't had any issues with it, just not a recommendation. But what I want to do with this is put this in let me see, I've got this picture here. I've got my lights out kit that I made a while ago. And this lights out kit, basically, it was more useful back when the kids were still here, and it's something where if the power goes out, this is in the living room closet, they just go in and grab it, and it's got all the things that they would need, or we would need, to sort of get the ball rolling in a power outage. So you're not looking around for flashlights, you've got all the stuff in there that you need, and it's also a way to just help keep everything organized. But as you see in this bin right here, this toolbox, there's an open side on the left right here, and then it's got the top shelf on the right. This open side, and for those of you listening to the podcast tomorrow, you may have to come just watch the video. But what I want to do is on this left-hand side, I want to hook up this battery inside there. And with this battery, I've got these 3 ports hooked up. Basically, it's just the on and off switch, which turns these DC ports on. It's got the cigarette lighter adapter. It tells you what the battery voltage is. And it's also got 2 USB ports right here. And I've also got this inverter right here, which is a 300 watt inverter, and it would plug right into this port right here. Now, this is only rated at 120 watts, which is just fine with me, because with a 20 amp hour battery, I don't, the less I use, I suppose, the better. So while I could hook this directly up to the battery and get 300 watts if necessary. 120 watts is going to be just fine for the 2 USB chargers. And I don't have really anything that would plug into here other than this inverter that I have that has the cigarette lighter port on it. And I've also got the adapter where you plug it into the cigarette lighter, and it's got the 2 prongs that go on the battery. So that's what I want to do, is put this in this kit right here. I thought about just making a little box for it. You'll have to wait and see what I end up doing. I'll put the ports on the outside of the toolbox, fasten them in so you don't really need to even open the toolbox. You can plug some stuff in, turn it on, and plug some stuff in. But I also want to make it maybe detachable. Not real sure yet exactly what I want to do. So you'll just have to, like I said, in the next few weeks, I will be doing more on that. Hey, look, DIY Diva's here, or Budget Equestrian, whatever her name is this week. And I think in the video I played tonight, Lisa, I was listening to it today. I think I slurred my words like I was drinking when I was editing the video, but I think I said Lisa in there just so you know. It was I apologize. All American Prepper, what's going on, man? Tiger, how you doing? All right. At any rate, with the bigger one, I've got this video that I made of the components that I have, and I want to go through what my plans are for this build. This is the one that, like I said, that smaller one, it's only 20 amp hours. It's only 120 watts. So that's for the really small stuff, maybe just for charging extra battery bank, something around the house, whether it's a power outage or not. This setup is going to be much bigger, and I have plans on basically doubling the size of this in the future as well. But for right now, it's going to be the 1000 watt inverter and the 100 amp hour battery. Let me play this. I've got a 3-minute video here that goes through all the different components, and then I'll talk about how I'm going to put this together. All right, so I've got all the components of this battery setup that I'm going to do. I am going to do a solar generator, something similar to that, maybe a toolbox, that's got a few stacks on it. Not real sure. I may end up building my own box because a lot of these are pretty large components. And all the wires, I haven't cut anything down to size. This is basically just testing the components, making sure everything works. So first I've got the 100 watt solar panel, which has got these connections right here, which I am going to change probably to Anderson power poles because they connect a lot easier, and I can, if I build a box like I would put this outside the box, I can also plug the solar panels and disconnect them really quickly. Also, I'd have the option of an AC power input as well with an Anderson power pole. So there's that. Then I've got the 1000 watt inverter, which is sort of small for preparedness purposes, but it does the trick. A 2000 watt inverter is ideal. That's basically what your wall outlet pulls. I think it's like 1800 watts. And then this is just a remote on and off switch, which is kind of neat depending on how your setup is. Mine is going to be all next to each other, so not sure how much I would need that. But again, if I build a box or something, I could mount that on the outside. If I put this in the box, I would need a fan or something like that. Although I have tested this and it doesn't run real hot, but I haven't put heavy loads on it. This is the 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, and this has got this control panel right here, which plugs right into it, which is pretty neat. You cycle through some of the different things. It gives you the amp hours, 8.5 amps. The charge right now is at 13.4, so it's a little bit low, but not too much. Right here it tells you the SOC, the state of charge. So we're at 91%. Amp hours and 8.5 amps again. So I'm going to put this back to the state of charge, 91%. Now on the charge controller, this is quite a bit bigger than the one I had on this sucker right here. As you can see, this is the size of the charge controller. But this charge controller, as you'll cycle through some of these things as well, it tells you 16.2, that's because it's charging, or 13.8, that's because it's charging. Right here, the temperature, 21 Celsius. I don't have a load on it, so it's telling me 0 right now. Right now, the solar, it's put through 1 amp hour. And from that solar panel right there, I'm getting almost 6 watts, and it's not super aligned or anything like that. So almost 6 watts with that. So everything's working on this. Everything seems to work on this. This is the super simple setup. I mean, if you want to put something together for yourself just to have a little bit of power, you can get whatever size battery you want. I've got a 20 amp hour battery inside. You can get whatever size inverter you want. You'll have to figure out what your needs are. And as well as a solar panel, but it's just the solar panel that's hooked up to the charge controller. And then you've got the charge controller hooked up to the battery, and then the battery hooked up to the inverter, and then you plug any of your AC appliances in right there. It's really that easy. Now when I make this charging station, however I decide to do it, it's going to get a little bit more complicated, and that's why I wanted to show you this right here. But that's it for now. Now that I've got that, making sure everything works, now I can try to figure out what I'm going to do with it. I had everything muted. Anyway, let me go back to what I was talking about now that I am unmuted there. Thanks, everyone. I should have seen the chat jumping like crazy. I should have known there was no sound. But at any rate, what I plan on doing with that solar setup is, like I said, I like the idea of the toolboxes and you putting the little gauges and all that stuff around the outside. It just looks really cool. And it's really portable, really, you leave it indoors and it's not really that bad. But what I think I might do, just because I want to be able to, when I do the video, I want to show you how I'm putting everything together. And I plan on expanding this to the 2,000 watt charge, the inverter, as well as a couple of batteries and a few more solar panels. With the solar panels, like I was talking about when you couldn't hear me, with the solar panels, one 100 watt solar panel is going to charge about 30% on a really good day, maybe 40% of this battery. So it's going to take a couple days. If I drain this battery all the way down, it would take a couple of days or maybe even a few days with one solar panel. So I want to get at least one more, possibly two more. And I've even got one from the OPEZ, the little foldable solar panel that I've got the adapters. That's a 100 watt panel too. I'm going to hook that up and check that out as well. But what I think I'm going to do, just to make it, so you can see what I'm doing on the video, is with my dolly right here, my hand truck solar charger that I did in the past, where that solar panel is right there, I'm going to maybe take a piece of plywood, something, and that's where I'm going to mount the components of this solar setup. So it'll all be on the back right there. I'll still be able to move it inside. I'll be able to keep it in the garage, hooked up to the solar panel on a daily basis. And when I need to, I can just take the sucker, move it inside. And eventually, like I said, it's going to get bigger, and I'll have to figure all that out. But I think this is the initial route I'm going to take with this one. So we will see how that goes in the future. Like I said, in just a few weeks or so, I'm going to start doing, I'll probably do a couple different videos on this. And I believe if you're interested in exactly how this stuff gets set up, I believe it's City Prepper. I watched a video of his a few years ago, or a couple years ago, on putting, it's really detailed. You got to sit there and listen to it. I mean, it's definitely, you're in the classroom. Yeah, Brandon said, I use Dale instead of muted now. Yeah. But it's a really detailed video. But I've got a couple slides I want to show you just to explain how this solar process, how this whole thing works. I explained it in the video, but this image sort of shows you where you've got the 100 watt solar panel, and this image also shows the fuses too. Again, if you're listening to this podcast, you may have to come watch this video. But goes to the charge controller. This is a super simple setup. If all you want is to be able to run a mini fridge, your lights, a hot plate, something like that, this is all you would need to do. Literally all you would need to do. So it's just some wires and a really simple setup that doesn't require a lot of math other than the size of the wires and all that. But what I plan on doing is a little bit more complicated in this. And I was debating on the whole fuse thing because I've seen Will Proust has done a couple videos where he puts together the milk crate box with his solar setup and doesn't fuse it because everything's so close, and it just doesn't fuse anything. I decided I'm going to be better safe than sorry, basically. So with this, what I did, I wanted a fuse box in order to be able to I want to be able to charge it with an AC charger. Maybe I want some lights on it, something like that. I want a couple USB charging ports like this one right here. I want to put a couple of these on there as well. So I'm going to need that fuse block right there, which is just a DC fuse block. And I've got a small one. I don't need a whole bunch of accessories, so I think the one I have is like 4. But these bus bars are the part that sort of makes it look confusing, but it's really not. All these bus bars is just a sort of like, think of like an airport or a train station. This is where everything comes and goes. So this is basically just an extension of the positive and negative on your battery. And it just feeds everything else from your battery. So basically, the solar panels go to the charge controller. The charge controller goes to the bus bars, and then the battery connects to the bus bars along with the inverter and along with the fuse box. So everything connects to the bus bars. And this way, when I set it up like this, I will be able to add different 12-volt outlets if I need to in the future. Like I said, I want to be able to charge this with AC charger. I've got this one right here, which is, I think this is like a simple little 2-amp charger. And I talked about the power poles, if I can find it here. And this is let me move my microphone. This is what I was talking about, how easily I've got this hooked up to where I can plug in the AC charger. And I've also got it where I can plug in the solar panels to the same sort of outlet. So on the box or on the board, I'll have one of these for solar and one of these for AC charging. So we'll see how it goes. It sounds pretty simple as I talk about it right now, but the way I do things, I'm not so confident. We'll know that. We'll see when the time comes how if I fry myself. I think it was Kevin talking yesterday about zapping himself in the private group. But at any rate, in the next few weeks, I'll be doing some videos on that, on my build, what I decide. I'm not going to say one way or the other exactly what I'm going to do, because I always change my mind, and who knows. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be mounted on a piece of plywood first, so you can see how everything works when I do the video, and then I might put it in the box. All right, so that's it on the solar setup I've got. Now I want to get into the actual show tonight, and I've got a lot to talk about here. So I've got my phone is being dumb. I've got a lot to talk about tonight. So I've got a video that I made with some of the questions, tips for beginning preppers, and tips just for regular, all of us that have been doing this for a while, just to kind of regroup and make sure you're focused on the right things. But before I get into that, I've got a couple of things. Like I said, control what you can control. And this is a couple of these that go sort of into the rest of the show, basically. And then towards the end, I've also got an article from Zero Hedge talking about 11 assumptions about what the future has in store for us, which is pretty cool because I agree with most of the article there. But it's also, he talks about in that, these are assumptions, you can control what you can control, and that's it. But first off, I got a question, I got an email from a listener, and I wanted to talk about this real quick. And this question, basically, this one from Todd. Todd said, I have a question for you. I'm a younger prepper, and I was wondering if you could give me some advice. I have the basics of prepping, a good amount of food put away, a bug out bag, everyday carry, all the sorted preps. I also have an assortment of farm animals on my homestead. So all that being said, what's an investment you would recommend or something you would have invested in earlier, i.e. solar, windmill, freeze dryer, sun oven, or other large investment preps? Any advice would be appreciated. Love the podcast. Thanks for reading, and best to you and Lisa. Now, I also want to get your guys' advice on this. I'll give you what my thoughts are on this, but I'd love that you guys to get in the chat and tell me what you would a big investment that maybe you wish you would have invested in earlier. Now on this, he's got a few different, all just really fun, cool toys. And I think this is something that's different for everyone. With me, it's definitely, I wish I would have gotten into the solar aspect a little bit earlier and started building that up. That way, right now I'm working on a 100 amp hour battery. Maybe I would be at the point where, like Kevin is, where he's got, I don't know how many batteries he's got now. He's got 400 or 800 amp hours worth of juice. But I would be up to that point where I'd have enough to power my well pump. I'd have enough to maybe set something up in the barn where Lisa wouldn't have to run an extension cord out there. All of those different things where if it is a grid down situation, I can run the refrigerator and not have to worry about it. Run it 24/7 and not have to worry about it. As it is now, I can run the refrigerator because it only takes about 600-700 watts. but I can run it for a few hours. So if I needed to, I could run it for an hour or two a day, or maybe a couple times a day, keep it cold, keep the freezer frozen and all that stuff. But I can't run it 24 hours a day. So solar would be one that would be for me. All American Prepper said more land. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely more land. That's that one. I'd love to have I could go out in my backyard, have a place where I just go shoot. I mean, that'd just be fantastic. But he also talked about in there the harvest right. The harvest right is fantastic too. And that's another one where I sort of, when I first saw this question, I was leaning back and forth. But those two right there, solar and the harvest right, the reason I think those two are sort of the most important ones are because those encompass a lot of different disaster situations where if you've got your food storage, it doesn't matter what the disaster is. If you've got a bunch of freeze-dried food, you're going to be golden. If you've got a way to power different appliances and things like that, regardless what the disaster is, you're going to be golden, even if it's just a small power outage. Now, the All-American Sun Oven, I love that thing, but it's not one of those all-encompassing things because if you're doing it right, you have other options as far as what you can do as far as cooking and things like that. So the All-American Sun Oven is cool, but it's not one of those really, one of those things that are going to make a huge impact on your preparedness. So Tiger said, yeah, a well needs at least 50 amps. Yeah, I know. That's every time I think I want to do this or I want to do that, I start looking at the specs and it's like, holy moly. Yeah, and mine is a deep well too. I need to actually look at the label on see how big my pump is because I'm 150, 160, 175 feet down, something like that. So it's a long way. Otherwise, I just have a whole hand pump or something like that. But just a great question from Todd there about what would you do first? And like I said, I think this is something that's different for everyone. And it really depends on you and your situation and where you want to go with prepping. But I like the idea. And, windmills, if you live in an area, maybe someplace in Wyoming where the wind blows all the damn time, maybe that's something that is more beneficial. Whereas if you live in Oregon or Washington State, maybe solar's not going to be the best for you. So just kind of figure out your situation and your needs and go from there. But that was a fantastic question. If anybody has any questions, send me an email to dale@survivalistprepper.net or I think it's dale@survivalistprepper.net or support@survivalistprepper.net, one of those two, or questions@thebugoutlocation.net. Send me a question and I'll answer it on the show. I love doing that with everyone. Or if you have anything in the chat, leave it in there and we can talk about it. But I got so much stuff going on here that if I get a chance to see it and the comments don't scroll it past me and I don't see it, it's kind of tough with the chat. But one other thing before we get into, I got to share this screen. One other thing before I get into this video I made with the tips from the preparedness community. Not Todd, sorry, I was just talking about Todd. Alpha Tango in the private group was talking about controlling what you can control. And this was just a really, I'm not going to read this whole thing because he talks about quite a bit right here, but it was a really good little write-up right here. I want to say comment, but it was a little bit longer than that. I will scroll through this so you guys can, maybe pause the video and read it if you want. I'm just going to summarize what he was talking about. But he's basically saying with all the current events going on around the world, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the fear and all that stuff. But this has been happening for, throughout history, right? And he talks about how the difference is that we are getting, we have access to the information more than we ever have. So what is possibly the same as it always, the same sort of strife and struggles that have always been, we have more access to it. So it seems like there's just a lot more. And granted, I know these days it seems like everything's, it's coming from all different directions, but he's talking about here, worry about the things that you can control. While there is a lot of noise out there, a lot of things that are going on, you've got to worry about what you can control and sort of, let me remove that here, sort of pay attention to it. but don't be consumed by it. And I've got this silly little image right here, and this sort of wraps up or explains what he was talking about perfectly right there. You've got one circle, and I'll try to explain this for everyone that's listening to this, but you got one circle, which is things that matter. And then you've got the other circle, which is things you can control. And there's overlap right in the middle there. And that's the stuff you should focus on. So while there's a whole bunch of things going on around the world, Biden doing this, Zelensky doing that, all these, Russia, and I mean, I could list a million different things going on right now. A lot of that we have no control over. So it's important that we pay attention to that, but we don't get consumed by it. What we should be paying attention to, getting throat's all messed up. What we should be paying attention to are the things that we can affect, the changes that we can affect. So what does that situation, they're going at the Second Amendment and the things that Biden is doing, the open borders, things like that. We can't control whether or not those yahoos are gonna do whatever the hell they want to do, and there's nothing that we can do about it. Like Alpha Tango said in that post, unless you're Jeff Bezos or one of these rich dudes, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. All we can do is what we can do. Prep locally is what I always say. But you pay attention to those things, and this is what the article I'm going to go through at the end from Zero Hedge. You pay attention to those things, and then you figure out what it is you can do to sort of mitigate the impact that's going to have on you. Not getting consumed by it, not worrying about everything so much that you're paralyzed, but using that as sort of a catalyst to help you make sure that you're staying motivated, you're getting things done. So just a really cool comment from Alpha Tango about there's only so much you can do, and don't get consumed by all the outside noise that you're going to get. You're going to get pulled in one direction or the other direction because all the stuff at the border's going on. So your focus is going to be there. Meanwhile, you're missing the stuff that's really important because you're worried about all that. Or with the way things are these days, I've got a comment I want to show from Brandon here real quick, but the way that things are these days, there's 400 different things that could pop off in, tomorrow. So you'd be scatterbrained trying to prepare for all of that stuff all at once. You just got to sort of take take a deep breath and focus on what those things that are going to help your situation out. Brandon said here, I recently dropped the term and idea of time management from my vocabulary. You can't manage time. You can only manage yourself. Yeah, that's a very good point. Hey, I think this is Todd that I just read your question. Thanks, Todd. Welcome. Glad you caught the live. All-American Prepper here. I can teach you how to build a bunker and cheap in 5 minutes. Yeah. Also, he's All-American Prepper said, fear is a contagious disease. That's what everybody does these days on YouTube, on the news, everything, even politicians and all that. They get you amped up. That's what they need to get people to buy in and pay attention and all that. So just don't get amped up. I mean, it's easier said than done sometimes, especially I think it was I can't remember who, Scott today talking about I didn't even know Biden was having an address or anything like that, but I can't watch that stuff because it just gets me amped up, and it's all a bunch of BS. So it really doesn't serve any purpose to pay attention to any of that stuff. At any rate, what I want to do now, once again, great comment from Alpha Tango, great little write up there. He's actually got quite a few of those in the group. Some sage advice from a prepper that's been doing it for a while. So very cool. What I want to do now is I've got, I want to, let me stop this real quick. I want to play this video that I made, and it's about 20 or so minutes long. And then I want to get into, and I'll answer any questions anybody has. This is a cool video if you're just starting out with prepping, or kind of a good refresher for a lot of you. I know that a lot of you listeners have been doing this for a while. It's a good refresher to just kind of get based in what you're doing and all that. But I do want to play this video and get this done and we might go a little bit long today. I missed last week, but I do want to get to that zero hedge article because it goes into the same thing about controlling what you can control. And a few of the comments in this that I've got also talk about controlling what you can control. Don't worry about all the noise and all that stuff. Just get your stuff done. In this video, I started off talking a little bit about what is prepping, to the people that aren't quite sure. I talked about is prepping pointless, is prepping crazy, all that. And then I went into some of the comments that I got in the private group. So with that, let me just go ahead and play this video real quick. And then I'll jump in the chat. If you guys have any questions, I'll be able to watch the chat now for about 20, 25 minutes. So post them in there and maybe we'll cover them after this video. But here's this video real quick. Most articles or videos that you see or read that talk about how to start prepping go over the supplies you might need, the gear you might need, all of the things that you would put in your bug out bag. While all of that stuff is important, there's a lot missing between just starting out and that step. There's a lot more in there that doesn't really get talked about a lot. And that's what I want to go over today is I posed this question to our private community, the Survivalist Prepper Online Mag Group, about what would you do differently, or what is some advice you would give if you're talking to somebody who was just starting prepping. And the answers were so good. I want to list a few of those here. But before we get into that, I wanted to go over some of the common questions you hear from time to time about what is prepping? Is prepping pointless? Are preppers crazy? All of those different things. So the first one here is, what is prepping? And one thing I want to get out of the way before we get into these tips and all that is everyone is different. The stigma about preppers from society is that we need to be prepared for the end of the world, or we're not doing it right, or that's what we do is we prepare. Every single prepper has got their doomsday bunker and 10 years worth of food. And this idea that all preppers are going to be hiding in their bunkers and they're going to be ready to blast anything that moves in some sort of disaster and crisis. Now, I'm sure these people are out there, but they are far and few between. Over the years, I've met and talked to many different preppers, some who wouldn't even label themselves preppers, but rather just a person who wants to be prepared, is trying to become more self-reliant. While we all start on the same path of storing a little extra food, storing some water, getting some supplies, all of these simple prepping things, it changes as we begin to individualize our preparedness plans. And that's what I want to go through a little bit in this video. Some of the things I've done, some of the things that the group members that answered the question have done. Prepping means different things to different people. There is no one way to label preparedness. I mean, in short, prepping is just a term that describes what we do, but it doesn't define who we are as people. Everything's got to be put in a box these days, and this is just the box that we that have chosen to prepare for some of these different events have been put into. All right, and the next one I've got here is one. Quite a few people ask that because of the way society labels preppers, they don't understand anything about it. So this is their first idea about preppers. Are they crazy? And the truth is, no matter how prepared you are, none of us are doing it right. None of us are doing it wrong. We're all doing what we can with the resources available to us. So that's why there are so many different people doing so many different things in preparedness, and it's all lumped into prepping. In my opinion, if wanting to have a contingency plan in place, just in case something happens, if that makes you crazy, then I guess I'm crazy. And I guess everybody that I talk to online are crazy as well. In today's world, you're taught that everything is only a click away. And even if you don't have the money, you just put it on your credit card. Having a pantry full of food is unnecessary because you've got convenience stores, you've got fast food places, you've got the grocery stores that are always, the shelves are always full. My question is, though, what happens when they don't? What happens when the grid goes down and everything we take for granted is gone. That could be the water coming out of your faucet. You flip the switch on your light socket. What happens when all that's gone? What happens when the store shelves are empty? What happens when the gas stations don't have fuel? And at that point, will you still have a job to go to in the first place? So when you look at it like that, prepping is not crazy at all. Prepping really makes sense. Even if it's something smaller, like a personal doomsday or a short-term power outage that maybe lasts throughout the day, a couple of days, wouldn't it be nice to have something tucked away to make life easier for you to weather the storm, whether that's a little bit of money, whether that's food on your shelves so you don't have to worry about going to the grocery store, you don't have to be worrying about fuel, all those things. So to me, prepping just makes sense. And when you consider the insanity around the world today and throughout history, I have to chuckle a little bit when people say that preppers are crazy, because we've had economies rise and fall. Right now, we're in a bad state that looks like it probably will get worse. We're in a perpetual state of war, it seems like, and disasters are happening all around us. Yet the preppers are crazy for having the foresight to plan for some of these events, or preppers are seen as crazy by some people because of this. And to me, it seems like if prepping is crazy, then isn't having auto insurance crazy? Isn't having a savings account crazy too? I mean, these things are they're considered okay by society. But when you prepare and you stock a little bit of extra food, you stock, alternative energy means, then you're going overboard. Then you're becoming a hoarder, and it's not accepted by society. So in my opinion, I think everybody is a little bit crazy one way or the other, but prepping itself, I don't think is crazy. All right, and then the third point before we get into these tips is prepping pointless. And this really is just a matter of perspective, I suppose. Preparing is sort of an individual thing, and it's often motivated by how you feel about the threats that you face, how you feel about the potential disasters and how they could disrupt your daily life. If someone isn't motivated by these things, they probably think that prepping is pointless. The perceived level of risk of these different disaster scenarios and your willingness to put effort into mitigating those plays a big factor in whether you think prepping is pointless or not. But like I said, everyone's different. And some people prepare for the more extreme scenarios, the larger scale disasters. And some people just focus on the more common disruptions like power outages, natural disasters, things that will last a week or two, but not the things that are going to be the full-blown SHTF society, the end of the world as we know it for an extended period of time. Like preparing for nuclear war might seem pointless to those that are concentrating on these smaller type things. So preparedness, in my opinion, preparedness and prepping are worthwhile, even if nothing happens at all. And contrary to popular belief about preppers, we're not all waiting for the end of the world. I'd be perfectly happy to live my life without some sort of major catastrophe or disaster disrupting it. But I'm not holding my breath on that one, especially when you look at the way things are these days and how easily we could go over that tipping point. Now, I want to talk about a couple of reasons why I think prepping isn't pointless, but I want to mention something first, and that's that it's crucial to strike a balance between preparedness, your prepping goals, and your personal life goals. You've got to live your life. You can't be so consumed with preparedness that you forget about everything else going on around you. So you got to strike that balance between becoming more prepared and not going completely out of your mind. And one of the tips we got from members of the community goes into that as well. Now, prepping can be beneficial for a number of different reasons. You've got your personal peace of mind. For many preppers, it's that sense of security, knowing that you've taken some steps to mitigate what these types of difficult situations might bring. And it helps reduce that anxiety and stress. You've got personal doomsdays where prepping is beneficial because you're not only helping yourself become a little bit more prepared for these larger scale situations, but if a job loss, if a medical emergency, a car accident, something like that happens, a personal doomsday, you have a little tucked away to weather that storm and get through a difficult situation. You've got the self-reliant aspect of it, which is that's what prepping is all about. Not having to depend on outside resources for your survivability, being able to take care of yourself and your family if the grocery stores, the shelves are empty, if the gas stations are closed, things like that. If the grid goes down and you have no electricity, you have that ability to take care of yourself. There's also community building, whether you're talking about online groups like the Survivalist Prepper group that we have, the online mag, where it's a bunch of like-minded individuals sharing their thoughts and helping each other grow. Whether it's an actual mag group or whether it's just a network of friends that you know are going to be beneficial, friends and neighbors that are going to be beneficial in a disaster, those are all super important. You've got the economic considerations, which are a big one for me because you just never know from one day to the next, from one president to the next, one administration, whatever. You just never know when inflation is going to start hitting even worse than it is right now, when things are going to go back to normal. So by preparing and looking, having that foresight to see that, hey, I'm going to stockpile a few things. That way, if it does get bad, I'm not going to be hit so hard by this. So preppers tend to invest in more tangible assets rather than the stocks and bonds. It's the food storage, it's the gold and silver, it's other essential preparedness supplies, stuff you can put your hands on. And then just sustainable living. The definition of a prepper, like I said earlier, is somebody who wants to live without the help of outside resources as much as possible. And that includes growing their own food, alternative energy, and minimizing their dependence on the whole machines. So ultimately, whether prepping is considered pointless or valuable really depends on your individual circumstances and your belief. It's a personal choice. For many, it's about finding a reasonable level of preparedness that provides peace of mind without completely consuming their lives. And the key is to approach this with a balanced perspective and not letting fear and paranoia drive the whole preparedness process. So these are, just some of the common questions I get from time to time, or I hear from time to time about how preparedness is this, or preppers are this, or preppers are that. And a lot of it is just not true. We're all so different. In my time doing this, I have met and talked to so many different types of people that are just your normal, average, everyday people that choose to put a little bit away, whether that be 1 month, whether that be 1 year, whether that be 5 years. We're all different. We're all at different levels, and we all choose to do these things differently. So with that, I want to go through some of these questions that I got from the private group that we have for Survivalist Prepper. And this is a group that I put together for members of the Bug Out Location, which you can become a member over at thebugoutlocation.net. Or you can become a member if you don't want to become a member of the Bug Out Location. For $2, you can become a member of this private group. And the reason I set it at $2 is to basically keep the trolls out, keep the riffraff out, the people that just want free stuff, and make it a group that's really constructive, that isn't judgmental, that it really has everybody's best interests at heart. And it is a fantastic group that I set up, and the people in there range from the very beginning preppers to people that have been doing this for years and years and years. So there's so much knowledge in there. And like I said, it's not judgmental. It's just a great place to kind of hang out, ask your questions. And if you've got questions about anything, there's bound to be somebody in there that has answers. So I'll leave a link below this video. You can go check that out if you like. It's a really fantastic group. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the first comment that I got here. And this is from Rick. And I got quite a few comments on this, and I only grabbed a few of them. So, but this is from Rick. He said, start small and don't try to get the newest gadgets being sold. Figure out what you really want to get out of preparedness. Most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's just what I was just talking about with the online group there. White Rabbit also replied. She said, agreed, Rick. It's too easy to buy the glitzy, gadgety stuff. I started with all that and threw nearly most of it out. Started with the clean slate, and after meeting the people in this group and figuring out what I really wanted and needed. And I think we all sort of go through that type of situation. I know I have, where it's, you start thinking you need this one thing or a bunch of these one things. You got to have this, you got to have this, you got to have this bug out bag. It's got to have all these different things in it. And as you grow in preparedness, you start to figure out what these things are that are important to you. And they sort of start to take priority over those other things. So as we start to individualize our preparedness plans, all of these things change. Just know that as you begin, you're going to do a lot of things, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you're going to grow as you go through the journey. So just kind of be okay with it. Take your time. Don't spend a whole lot of money at first. The more you can learn in the beginning, the more money you're going to save from all this stuff. So the next one I've got here, and this is from the other Brandon. Brandon said here, as far as advice, start off with food, water, household supplies, medications, the stuff you use every day, every week, every month, until you have a month's extra. Then allow yourself a quote unquote prepper type item, including training and knowledge. Then go for 2 months worth and a second type of prepper item and training. So this is pretty regimented as far as how he goes about things, which is a pretty good idea. It's not a case of being prepared for Teotihuacan or nothing at all. There's a whole level of preparedness that lends itself to being more akin to the Boy Scout model. And this is what I was talking about earlier when at the very beginning of this video, where most articles talking about how to prepare give you a list of prepping supplies, but there's a whole lot more to it than just that stuff. Bottom line, he says here, don't get caught up in the hype and know how to use the gadgets that you buy when you buy them. So yes, that's a really tough one as well, because not getting caught up in the hype, that's what there's a certain amount of fear that gets us into preparedness in the first place. And there are a whole bunch of people out there that are trying to capitalize on that fear. So it's a little bit easier said than done when you're first getting into preparedness, and it wanes over time. Although I will say the fact that we are interested in preparedness, the fact that we are worried about these things, there's always going to be that little piece of you that is going to, get a little bit hyped up when you hear about different things happening. So, but try to keep that in check. All right, so the next one I've got here is from Carla, and Carla says, be organized. It takes discipline and it can be frustrating, but you'll appreciate it later. I can attest to this 100%. I basically changed the way I do everything. She says here, you want to use the first in, first out method, the FIFO method. For your food. Keep a spreadsheet of what food you have in stock so you know what you have. Deduct the items you use from your stored goods so you know what to buy on your next shopping trip. This also helps you keep on your budget. You won't be buying items you don't need. Start small if you're on a strict budget. Shop sales and use coupons. Buy a couple of extra cans every time you go to the store. A few of these cans will add up fast. Everything else will fall. This is really good advice right here. Everything else will fall into place given time. Don't fret about doing everything all at once. You'll drive yourself insane. Any steps made to go in the direction you dream of is a positive move. Keep the faith. And I think this is sort of on the same lines of what I was talking about earlier. When you first get into preparedness, you're a little bit tense, you're a little bit scared, you're a little bit worried about all of these things going on. And as you do this for a little bit longer, you start to realize that, okay, most likely I've got some time to do this. So you don't have to go into debt. You don't have to max out the credit card. Just do things step by step. And you'll look back in a year from now and you'll have everything figured out, or you'll be a lot better off than you ever thought you were. Now, the way Carla does things right there, it's different for everybody. Whatever works for you, she seems like she's a little bit more regimented about things. I'm maybe a step below that, whereas a year or 2 years ago, I was 3 or 4 steps below that. It's just find that process that works for you and stay organized, because the more you get, the more food you have stored, the more supplies you have. It gets a little bit harder to keep that stuff organized. And if it's like cleaning out an office, right? If you maintain that office on a daily basis, or a teenager's bedroom, if you maintain that on a daily, or if they maintain it on a daily basis or a weekly basis, it's a whole lot easier to clean. But if you don't, And 3 months later, you open the door to your office or that teenager's bedroom, and it's a complete mess. You basically have to pull everything out and start from scratch. And that's what we don't want to do. So very good advice from Carla right there. All right, so Denise's advice here. After prepping for the obvious things like food, water, and shelter, a couple of people have mentioned that. Yeah, get that basic stuff done first. And with that basic stuff, make sure it's the best your income allows. I like the idea that so many others have tried, that's turning off the electricity and seeing where you suffer the most. Nobody knows better where you are than you. Nobody knows where you need improvement. Of course, power loss is just one scenario to prep for, but it's the one I have encountered so many times, and I would think you would think that I would have it all figured out, but I don't, basically, is what she's saying here. And I think all of us feel exactly the same way about a million different things in preparedness. The second you think you've got something figured out, Murphy's Law or whatever is going to come and show you exactly how you don't have everything figured out. And with preparedness, we're preparing for disasters that we don't really know what's going to happen. We understand what's possible, but we don't really know how they're going to unfold. So everything is unpredictable. So we're never really going to have everything figured out. She had mentioned doing the lights out test, and we have done that once before. We tried to do it for a whole weekend, and it just didn't quite work out. I was ready to pull my hair out because the kids were just really annoying by the second day. So we didn't quite make it the full weekend, but just try that and see where your deficiencies are. See what sort of stress it's going to cause, and then you can build on that and do those types of drills for a whole bunch of different things, without water, without electricity, all different things, without the ability to cook meals, things like that. All very good advice from Carla there, or from Denise there. Next, we've got Scott. And Scott, he says, I'm not sure where I would be on the scale of prepping, but one of my biggest challenges was shifting my critical thinking to a preparedness mindset. And from the little I know about Scott, I think he's in a good spot as far as preparedness is concerned. And that is, geographically and just the way he thinks about things. And that's what he's talking about here. Prepping will open your eyes to a lot of boxes and labels society places on people and groups. I've chosen to step away from the groupthink and focus on what is important to me and my family. When you have that light bulb moment followed shortly after with anxiety to get prepping, don't forget to live your present life too. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Scott's comment is like, yes, we've got to get prepared. We've got to do these things, but you can't do it and forget about your whole life, your whole family, because that's not going to go over well with them. It's too easy to get consumed by the doomsday mentality. It's important to have something that grounds you in reality and get your mind back on track. Like a hobby, a workout, or just listening to the Survivalist Prepper podcast can be good to realize that you're on track and you can do this. Whatever you do, find a balance that works for you. Now, not to toot my own horn, but the Survivalist Prepper podcast and these videos and the bug out location are all great because I do talk about things exactly like this. It is not you've got to have this. You've got to have 500 pounds of beans stored. And if you don't have this, if you don't have a mag group, you're not doing it right and you're going to fail. Lacey and I's whole thought process going into this, and it still remains the same today, is I don't care how much you're doing. I just care that you're doing. And I think everybody, especially in the group as well, that's what they think about as well. And just because what you want to do today may change in a year from now. So if your thought is that I'm going to prepare for 30 days, that's fine. And that's where you want to end it, then that's fine. You never know. Once you get prepared for 30 days, you might have seen some different things, started learning some different things and go, okay, I'm going to raise this to 3 months now because that 30 days just doesn't seem to cut it. Maybe good for FEMA, but it's not good for me. So, very good suggestions from Scott there. Make sure you got to live your life. You only get one of them. So make sure you live your life at the same time, become better prepared. And there's only so many things we shouldn't be worried about the things that we can't control, and we should be working on the things that we can control. So Very good advice from Scott. The last one I've got here is from Mama Bear Prepper. She said, and this is one we all, the paralysis by analysis. My toughest area to tackle has been what to do first. My brain says start with your food storage in case something happens. Then it says wait, start with your garden because if something happens while you're stocking your pantry, you'll have food you can rely on because the shelves will be empty. And then your brain says, oh yeah, well, what are you going to do with all that food that you grow if you don't have a way, if you don't know how to can? Maybe you should learn this first and then get your supplies. Next thought, just order some chickens and build a coop. At least they will produce food for you, and so on and so on. And you can see where this pattern goes right here. And this is, I think we all do it because there are so many different things in preparedness and so many different directions to go that it can be tough. And you've got to, instead of really overthinking, and this is easier said than done, like Mom Bear was talking about, I'm the same damn way. You need to pick a direction and just go there. I call it just-in-time learning, where if I want to, if I've got my, the initial stuff set, I've got a little bit of food stored, I've got a little bit of water stored, I've got the bug out bag, I've got those things. I pick a direction and go that direction. And like I said, I call it just-in-time learning. This is what I need to learn about right now. I'm not going to worry about the chickens. I'm not going to worry about the canning. I'm going to worry about this right now. And once I have this figured out, then I will move over to the chickens. Or if I'm going the chicken route, I'm going to focus on chickens, and this is all I'm going to worry about. I'm not going to try to learn about canning and chickens at the same time. Just pick a direction and go with it. Like I said, we've got plenty of time for all of this stuff, or we could have plenty of time. Things could fall apart tomorrow. You just never know. But the odds are we've got plenty of time. And like I said earlier, not all preppers are hoping or waiting for the end of the world. It may never come. There's a chance that we're doing all this stuff and we're not, in our lifetimes anyway, we're not going to see that large scale disaster. But the odds are we are going to see a whole bunch of those smaller scale things, and we're going to see situations where prepping and preparedness comes in handy regardless what happens around us. And it's also a great way to teach the younger generation too. Teach them how, just by living with you and seeing how you do things, they're going to pick up on those things. And sometimes they may call you crazy behind your back or maybe to your face, depending on how your kids are. They are going to pick up on those things. So when they get older and they start to see things the way you see things, maybe they don't fall into the group think like Scott was talking about, and they start to build, they follow their own path, and they see how these things are important, and they do things just like we do things like our grandparents used to do. They will be looking back on us. And most people, unfortunately, don't think like this. Most people are the consumers. They are tied to the credit cards. They are tied to the grocery stores, the fast food joints, the day-to-day living that just to me, it seems like there's too many opportunities for things to go really bad living that lifestyle. So that's why I choose the preparedness lifestyle. So at any rate, that's it on this. And I'm going to get back into the live show here, and I'll answer any questions that everyone has. All right, so very cool. And for everyone that posed their responses there, I appreciate it. Really, like I said, that group is fantastic. There are so many different levels of preparedness in there, from the beginner to the people that have been doing it for a long time. It's just a fantastic group to be able to get that type of information and be able to ask questions and not have to worry about somebody giving you a bunch of crap or trying to be the one-upper and all that stuff. So very cool. While I was playing that video, Vision was talking about, let me see if I can find it here. Is Prepping Nerd Software. And he posted what it was, and he said it's called the Ultimate Prep System, or Ultimate Prep System. I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, he says it's awesome. I've never tried it, so I'll have to look it up first and give it a shot. He said it's a yearly subscription. He said it's awesome. It literally tells you how long your preps will last and how many calories and a whole lot more. So sounds really freaking cool. I'm going to have to check that out. Anything that can help me stay focused, stay on track and all that, I'm game for. And it really depends on the price as well, but we'll see. Brandon said, nice video. Yeah, thanks, Brandon. It's not polished. I'm going to actually put a little bit more into it and make it a little bit more watchable, and then upload it on YouTube where it's not just one slide sitting there for 20 minutes while I'm rambling, but just a lot of cool information and a lot of really good stuff from the people in there. But with that, I did want to I wanted to keep going with this whole control what you can control theme with the show. And that's what that video was. That's what we started talking about with Alpha Tango's comment. And this article, let's see if I can pull it up here. Find out how to share the screen here. This is, there we go. Make that full screen. This is from Zero Hedge, and it's 11 assumptions about the future. And what he talks about in here, he talks about the exact same thing that we've been talking about with this show, is about how these are assumptions, not predictions. And these are things that it's kind of a cool blueprint that we could all sort of use. And I'm going to, sort of go along the same type of thing. He's talking about how we're in this chaotic phase where it's really impossible to predict anything in the near future. The best you could do is form a hypothesis and orient your actions around it. And right here, he talks about how things outside our control we can stop worrying about. They're not up to us. Instead, our concern is with our control, and our energy and resources should be dedicated there. And he goes through some of the things that he's sort of thinking about as far as what he's planning on, the things that he's planning on that are going to affect him in the future. So like I said, these are just assumptions, and this is something that we could do, a cool little process that we could do for ourselves, and find that, when I showed that chart with the two circles and the interlapping part in the middle is where we should have our focus. This is kind of a cool process to be able to figure out, yes, okay, all of this stuff is going on, but what does that mean to me? What does that mean to my preparedness level? So in here, he talks about his 11 assumptions, and I want to just go through some of these. The first one he talks about here is less freedom of movement. There's going to be more effort to restrict and regulate our freedom of movement, from vax passports to increased visa requirements, 15-minute city initiatives, the grid being constructed to regulate our freedoms of movement. And this is, again, this isn't predictions. This is, I completely see things going in this direction. They need, in order to, and again, this is my opinion, in order to do the things that they want to do, they need those shackles on. They need things like that to make sure that we are being herded in the correct direction. Number two here is the CBDC is coming. And honestly, I think maybe it's sort of already, I mean, that's sort of the system that we're in anyway. It's not really a cash system, but it's just going to be, further along the line. And he says cash will be eliminated. How restrictive it may end up being, I don't know. But the CBDC is a foregone conclusion. And that is the thing about the CBDC right there is, I tend to think it's going to give them a lot more ability to do things that are just going to piss us off, basically. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe it is something that is accepted and it's not as bad as we might think it will be. I mean, or maybe people just get used to it, just like everything else, the spying and all that stuff. So, but it is coming, and we'll see how all of that stuff plays out. I don't have any, like I said earlier, I'm not holding my breath, with all this stuff. Everything they do with the censorship and all those different things it's just putting the clamps down more and more, because with all the access to the information that we have and the way we can connect with each other globally these days, it makes it really hard for them to do their job. So they need to lock all that stuff down. Number three, digital ID is already here. Biometrics are the future. And this video right here, I'll put this on full screen. This video right here was pretty interesting. And I don't know how common this type of stuff is, but he says here, if you have a government issued ID associated with your photograph, you are already in the system. And this video right here, watch this dude going through, I think it's an airport or something like that. Didn't even have to pull out his ID or passport or anything.
All right, so we're going through Houston Airport, doing all biometrics now. Check it out. Welcome to 1984.
And you're in the H0 reversal. Willing and able to assist? Thank you.
On the blue dot.
Folks, have your passports out this time. Passports out, please. One up.
Thank you, Nicholas. You're all set.
Thank you. All right, so you saw it. No passport.
But just really interesting where all of this is going. It's you think back to 20, 30 years ago when it was we all had cash in our wallets. That's a thing of the past now. It's plastic basically in our wallets. Now us preppers, we tend to carry a little bit, but Gun Pilot said, "Yep, yeah, I'm screwed on that working for the military." Yeah. Anybody that I don't even probably past work for the government and things like that. Yeah. Jammer said you can opt out of biometrics in Houston. That's interesting. So at least there's some, some people at least noticing that, hey, this could be some 1984 crap going on here. We need to pay attention to this. Number 4, I might not go through all of these, but number 4 here, well, we're only at an hour 7. Maybe I will. GFC 2.0 and the Greater Depression. Timing is hard. Let me put this on full screen. Timing is hard, but can any thinking person imagine how the outcome can be avoided altogether? Simon Hunt suggests a market pullback of up to 30% between now and early 2024, followed by a pump and a deflationary wipeout by 25. I have heard a lot of people, and you get the yahoos that say, oh, we're going to, especially politicians, everything's going to be fine. But I've heard a lot of people talking about how this is going to get bad. And this is one of those things when I talk about control what you can control. This is where that meets. And like he was talking about, this is an assumption. This is his list of things basically that he can work on. Those, that the economy, or you have this feeling that the economy is going to get bad. And that's in that circle where it overlaps. So that's what you can control. What can you do now to help put yourself in a situation to sort of weather that storm when it comes to that? So, a Greater Depression, that concerns me quite a bit, because it seems like the yahoos up top just don't give a crap about any of that stuff. This one right here, number 5, he thinks that most of his financial assets will disappear at some point. Inflation, bank bail-in, market wipeout, the great taking. I don't know what the cause, but I assume physical assets are where I need to be ultimately. And that goes into what we as preppers talk about all the damn time, right? That stuff, the tangible stuff, the things that you can put your hand on, the gold, the silver, the prepping supplies are a great investment as well. The food storage, those things that when everything does go to crap and maybe meat is triple in price, you've got, some put away. You've got that storage where you can weather that storm if it does get that bad, and who knows for how long. And then things maybe come back down to normal, or maybe it's the new normal, which is still 2 steps above where we are now. But all right, so the next one, increasing crime and disorder. You've seen the videos, whether driven by economic desperation, mass migration, the inversion of law, in the name of social justice, crime and disorder will grow and lead to greater physical threats in our cities and property from our fellow man. This makes urban environments especially but not exclusively, a real risk. Now, this sort of goes into what Alpha Tango was talking about as well, with different disasters that happen all the time. You've got hurricanes that happen in Florida. You've got earthquakes in California, but they don't really affect you. So with this one, is a situation like this going to affect you? And if it gets big enough, I know we've talked about this a million times, how it leaks out into the rural areas, but this is one where if you are in the suburbs, or you are in an urban area, maybe it is something that you really pay attention to. Whereas where I am, or if you're out in a rural area, maybe it is something that you pay attention to, but it's not something that is really high on your priority list. Number 7 here. Supply constraints are increasing around all commodities, from food to energy. Tight supplies are showing up everywhere. Live cattle, long dormant, hit an all-time high recently. Oil prices are up 30% in the last 3 months, 40% in Argentina's wheat crop is in poor condition. The protectionist policies are on the rise globally. So again, the supply lines, again, all of these are the reasons that we prepare, right? So we see all of these things, and heck, we could even not even make a list. These are probably things that are already on our list to make sure that we're preparing for these things. But I definitely think that supply constraints, the economy, all of those seem like those are where I think my focus needs to be at this point. And it's not Ukraine, it's not the nuclear war, it's not Russia. While that is sort of important, the stuff going on here at home, that is the things that concern me the most. The fact that the politicians that are supposed to be up there helping this country out and doing the things to help this country grow could give a crap about us and give a crap about the economy. That concerns me the most. Flooding, opening the gates at the southern border and all that stuff. So the next one here, World War III is coming. A good case can be made. It's already begun. The Army War College recently published a study suggesting that all volunteer force has reached the end of its useful life. With the military struggling with recruiting, conscription is likely at some point. Now, this one, like I just said, I don't know how big this is or how high on my threat level this is, but it's not to say that it's completely out of the question. Who knows how all of this stuff unfolds? I talked to Tag either last week or a couple weeks ago, and he thinks that World War III agrees with this. It's a foregone conclusion. It's going to happen, and I agree too. At some point, either side doesn't want to budge, so something's got to give at some point. But what does that mean? How does all of that unfold? That's a tough question to answer, but. If we're doing the things that we can do as preparedness on a local level for our individual selves and preparing as much as we can for these different things, that's all we can really do. We can't control what Putin does. We can't control what Biden or Zelensky does. We can control what we do. The next one here, this is a big one too. Censorship and digital control will enter a new phase, and they're pushing this really hard. Deplatforming, debanking, shadow banning, and social media account suspensions will increase. Centralized digital service of all kinds will be considered suspect and very likely dangerous to use in the future. Any way they can control, there's too much information that we can share and we can talk about. There's too much that it's really hard for them to lie about crap these days. And I don't know, when I played that last video, everyone, were you able to hear it? Creative redundancy said sound on. Okay.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework for a concerned international response.
They care about us and our needs. That is such BS. That is controlling the narrative. That's all that is. They can talk about all this crap all they want, but it is controlling the narrative. Like I've said a few times now, we've got too much access to too much information, and we can call bullshit on things so easily these days that they just can't have that. So they need to put the locks down and rein all of this free access to all this information in. And what they call misinformation, disinformation, all that different things, it's just information that they don't agree with or they don't want out. So all a bunch of BS. Number 10 here, I could go on that for an hour. Number 10 here, the U.S. elections, regardless of the outcome, is an inflection point and potentially a flashpoint. If it happens, the outcome will not be accepted by half the country. I've heard from more than one source, publicly and privately, that there may not be a 2024 election. Who knows? But I'm sure what I'm sure of is that running up to and shortly after the elections, things could get wild. Yeah, it could get crazy. In advance of the 2020 election, we had COVID and the BLM stuff. Shortly after January 6th, state overwatch. What will 2024 bring? And this is one that I don't stress about a whole lot and don't really think about a whole lot right now. But as we get closer to that, that could be a catalyst to a lot of different things here in the United States. And it could be intentionally as well. Just like I think, and I'm going to bite my tongue here on YouTube, but just like I think there were a few things that happened in the past that were in a little bit intentional as well, or at least pushed or helped in the right direction to have the outcome that they deemed that they wanted or they deemed necessary. But that is going to be a very interesting time, especially if the economy is in the tank. If things get worse than they are right now, and you get that election, and then we've got the southern border and all those different things that people are just up in arms about, but the politicians don't care about. It could be very interesting how all of this stuff plays out. And honestly, I don't know how much it matters, because none of them, I don't care who they are, what side they're on, the uniparty, none of them give a crap about what we're doing. So I just don't know how much it really matters, but it does matter to a whole lot of people. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So the last one here, there is a war happening today. It's a war on us. The primary battleground is within the sphere of 5GW, informational and psychological. Where I've been wrong in the last 3 years, it's been my assumption that kinetic coercion would be utilized. As we can see, much progress has been made with the Great Reset without the need for kinetic tactics. For most of this cycle, they will rely on the same approach. When we see a move towards kinetic force, we should be alarmed because we will have entered the new and more dangerous phase. And with that, I completely agree with that one too, because you look at we think of the World Economic Forum, and there's sort of this outside body that really doesn't have a whole lot of control over governments and things like that. And that's the perception anyway. I really think they do, because even if they are not the ones pulling the strings, even if they are not the ones that are putting through laws and doing things like that, their ideas are being picked up by these governments, and all of this stuff is happening and sort of congealing. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but everything's sort of coming together to form this new system, I guess, a new way of doing things. So as he's talking about theirs, we see this sort of picking up with all of these things combined, the censorship, all of these things that sort of put the chains on us and force us to conform to what the good citizen is. That is concerning as far as where the future goes, and who knows how long that is. Again, this was assumptions about where everything's going and things that he's sort of paying attention to and working on, the physical assets, the food storage. This is me talking now, but all of those things that he's working towards, those things that sort of like, okay, this is what I see happening, and in a year or two from now, maybe just a year from now, maybe 6 months from now, we'll see where we are with all of this stuff and sort of move forward. Kentucky Goatman said, I'm going to go watch Grumpy's stream now. Okay, cool. Yeah. And you know what? I'm almost done anyway. I think I'm going to probably go watch his stream as well. Grumpy Acre Farms, if you guys want to watch another video. But that's it for me today. We're at an hour and 20 now, so I do need to get out of here. But I wanted to go over that because it was a great example of controlling the things that you can control. And while you focus on a lot of those large things, I'll show this picture one last time. You focus on all of those large things, but in the middle there, those are the things that you can control. So don't worry about the stuff on the outside edges. Worry about the things that you can control. You can only do so much. So if it doesn't do us any good to stress about the things that we can't do. I can't have 4,000 watts of power right now. I can't have a complete solar setup to where I don't even need to be tied to the grid anymore. That's not going to happen for me. So that is something that I shouldn't even give my time to. My time should be spent on, I did get the harvest right. So just stocking up, getting as much meat and things like that I can while I can before those prices skyrocket, and doing those things that help you become a little bit more prepared than you were yesterday, than you were a week before. I think Scott said in the group, or no, it was Vision that said in the group, prepare, get your stuff ready for a month, get all that stuff taken care of, and then double it. Do it again, and then do it again. And then pretty soon you're going to be prepared if something comes down the pipe. And as I said earlier, if nothing happens at all, we're better for it. I'm going to be able to use that food. It's not like it may last 20 years, but for the most part, especially the meat and things, it's not going to be there for 20 years. But I do want that stockpile big enough to where if something happens and if the economy's in the tank for a few months, I want to be able to weather that storm and get through life and as easily as possible, even though it's going to suck when it happens. And I think it probably is. It's inevitable. But at any rate, David said, thanks for the show. Thanks, David. Brandon said, take care all, stay safe. I appreciate you all joining in. Teresa, how's it going, Teresa? She said, thank you. Gun Pilot, thanks, Dale. But I appreciate y'all joining in tonight. I'm not sure about the Thursday live streams. I may switch to Tuesdays. I'm not sure, but I will let everyone know. I always put out an email right before the show. So if you want to get on the email list, just go to survivalistprepper.net. And I believe in the sidebar, you can jump on the email list. I've got the 30 Days to Preparedness course over at the Bug Out location. If you get on that list, even if you don't want to take watch the videos, you can still get on the list, and I will alert everyone. That way you don't have to depend on YouTube. But at any rate, I am going to get out of here today. So with that, everyone take care and prepare, and we will talk to you all later.